MFPers, we are back. We had a great week last week with special guest Matt Koenig. Joe and I are back on it. We might be expecting a week off with Joe next week. I might have to go solo. I don't know.
You got to go solo.
Apparently, Baby Yams is on her way, so it's going to be exciting. We have a lot of exciting things for just us as coaches and introducing, hopefully very soon, a new member into the MFP community. But before we go into all that and all those things, we're going to talk about our topic today, which is the law of mentalism, which is essentially the idea that thought is really everything and anything. And the way we understand our thoughts, we become aware of thoughts, the way we navigate our thoughts, the way we apply our thoughts, all that plays an extremely significant role to who we are as human beings and how we connect as a collective society. So we're going to get into all the very shallow concepts of thoughts and thought patterns, and we'll even go into the deeper wisdom and spiritual understanding of what thoughts really are and how they are, much more than we really think in terms of energy. So let's get grounded. Let's start getting our thoughts into organization, and we're going to take 3 breaths. So wherever you're at, find your space. Try to lengthen your spine. Settle into the present moment. The first step with thoughts is just awareness. Notice. Don't change. And the basic understanding of this is the more you just let them be, the more you just become aware, you understand that these thoughts are just inputs from the outside world. With practice, they start to be quiet. And we understand that there is the one true thought patterns that come from you. And in time and in practice of this inner work, the goal is to quiet the mind, open the heart, free the soul, and find that true voice, that inner peace. So let's take our first breath in. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Let it out. Inhale. And let it out. All right, thoughts are clear. Let's do it.
All right. Also, I have a grounding quote from John Kabat-Zinn. Not a crazy one today. No outlandish quotes. It says, "Patience is a form of wisdom. It demonstrates that we understand and accept the fact that sometimes things must unfold in their own time." So my thought process behind this one was, one, patience is just something I'm trying to practice right now, especially with not knowing when a baby's gonna come. It could be it's just it's so easy to get out of that present moment, which I feel like I've been doing a lot lately, and it's totally natural, but also I think that, so many of us, we live busy lives, and, it's so easy to get out of this current moment, this here and now, and especially, wanting things to be a certain way when they actually exactly as they are right now. I think there is a lot of wisdom in just truly accepting, surrendering, and letting things unfold as they're meant to. It's something I think that it's important for me to practice that right now. But not just if you're not having a baby in the next week, it's also important for everyone to practice. It applies to everybody's life in some way.
100%, man. That's it. Well, you're learning. I don't need to comment on that. Joe's figuring it out himself. He just answered your own anxieties.
I'm good now. I'm good.
You just got to speak it into existence,
Yeah,
man.
I'm
Sometimes
good,
we, I don't even need to give any advice. We already have the inner wisdom of what we need to do. Sometimes just speaking it out to, the camera or to somebody else is all you need, brother. So let it happen, brother. She's coming out at her own time. She already has it decided.
Exactly.
As I've learned, at least from my own practical experience with Jack. So, but we're pumped. So as we're, building our community here with, new babies, new members, and a lot of actually exciting things to look forward to for you guys is the CrossFit Open. We're going to touch on this real quick just because Joe's been on fire with those emails, and hopefully we noticed in this email that you guys received yesterday, the first thing that we talked about was our complete, at least general overview of our new open layout for this year. And obviously with, being family individuals now, and Coach Amy has her lifestyle and just logistics for our community and our gym and so many other factors, we're going to decide to have a new flow into how we bring about this special experience. And just know that it's still a very important and special experience for us as coaches and for you as the community, not just the one obviously bringing you guys together. Like that's really the sole purpose of the CrossFit Open, is to have something as a collective community to look forward to that will secondarily bring you guys a fitness test, a fitness assessment, and that could cause stress or thoughts for people to go all over the place, to not want to do it, to think poorly, have a poo-poo mindset, and really that should be something exciting for us to look forward to, a challenge, an opportunity for us to grow. And then lastly, it's just fun. We're going to bring the fun, even though we will not have Friday Night Lights this year. I know, sad, crying emoji. We're still going to have a Saturday Showdown experience. We're still going to have the intramural experience for you guys. So Blueberries are still quite alive.
Oh, yeah.
We'll go over the teams. We'll send you guys more information about how you guys will still be on your same teams, and some people are free agents. And so if you're a free agent, you're going to get drafted on a team. So it's going to be exciting, and you guys will have to register. What we're going to change, the biggest change we're going to make this year is that you guys are not going to register through the CrossFit games.crossfit.com website. We are not going to do that for this year. We're going to give CrossFit HQ just a break, just because there were a lot of changes in logistics from the past year into this year that are just really not making sense as an affiliate to put that money towards CrossFit HQ in that sense. Not saying that we're anti-CrossFit HQ or anything. It's just opportunity for us now to bring that income that you guys pay in MFP, and most importantly, with those fees that you guys bring in and you pay for the sign up for the intramural event, you guys can actually qualify to win a prize if your intramural team is top dog by the end of the 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think it just makes it so much more exciting for our own community, like really bringing it in-house, because it's CrossFit HQ is still important to us, but we don't know exactly what the funds go to when they pay towards CrossFit Open registrations, but we have a direct control over how we could use that to improve our experience here, and I think that's super cool, super important. But also keep in mind, if you really want to sign up for the full open leaderboard, go ahead. You're not not allowed to do it. It's not one or the other. If you want to also be on the full worldwide leaderboard, certainly go for it. But this year's one, I think it's kind of a transition year for CrossFit, because last year was so chaotic and they're just trying to get everything together. So, I think it's just best for us to keep it here and just only worry about ourselves and what we have at MFP.
Yeah, 100%, and that's really the bigger picture with it. And yeah, like Joe said, be our guest. Go on CrossFit.com, pay the fee, get on the worldwide leaderboard, which is awesome. That's actually one of the biggest things I love about the Open, is because it is the one thing that really shows that CrossFit is a worldwide phenomena. And it really is not just about this local town in Southeast PA. It's really about expanding into Europe, Asia, Australia, South Africa, South America, Canada, all over the world. It's huge. And yeah, the Open really is a resemblance of that. However, again, for us, it's more about just keeping it close and intimate and in our MFP community and doing the same workouts. And we'll have our own leaderboard. You guys will still be judged. All those things are going to transfer that you guys will get more information with. So we're excited. One of the biggest things about the Open, especially when we present it to the community and you guys, and we use the word competition, for example, that starts to create a spiral of potentially negative thoughts. And almost everybody, obviously it causes the nervous system response of being anxious or feeling worry or, all these things that are going to put you in this range of pushing you away from like wanting to participate. And that's the idea. That's a good thing. We want you guys to feel this sense of challenge, adversity, anxiety, that's part of personal growth for you to actually overcome and learn in a very simple way. Because, really all you're doing is just a workout. Yet, we have the fear of performing a workout because we know it's hard. We have the fear of knowing that we are going to submit a score and this comparison of like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, or this person's doing better than me, this person's doing this, and we have the challenge for us to overcome focusing on our own inward experience, but also having gratitude for the complete collective experience of what it brings. And so really what we're trying to do is find that center point, that balance point of really enjoying a competitive experience that is not taking us out of center of comparing, losing myself into that part, and then also having the fear of just performing and doing all these things and just enjoying the idea that I am capable of doing these workouts no matter what level. I have gratitude that I can, and also having I get to do this with the community, with like-minded individuals. Mm-hmm. I have the gratitude of being able to enjoy an experience with like-minded people. I have the ability and I am capable of performing. Yeah. And we're just practicing these little habits, we can call them, of thought processes and start to apply that into these open workouts that we're going to experience for 3 weeks.
Yeah, for me, I think what I want to convey is like, it's a little bit of, as tough love as tough love Coach Joe could be, but like the tough love Coach Joe is like, I don't believe that you should approach really anything in life with being like, oh, it's just a workout. I'm just like, like it's no big deal. Like, I think it is like a good thing to care about stuff. Yeah. Like, it could be like, there's a difference between being like very mindful and very present and also just not caring. Like, yep. I think it's great to care about stuff and, but just have that balance. Like, really think about, understand that challenges are good for you and like facing hard things are good for you, and just find that balance with yourself where, maybe you could open yourself to accept like, oh, here's an area where I want to grow. Here's an area where I want to improve, rather than just like taking it as all negative. Like, embrace challenges and show you care, whether it's the Open or really anything in life, like your job or even just like taking pride in yourself. Like, caring about stuff is good. It's just having that growth mindset with it, where it's not like when you realize you're coming up short, it's not just like all going inward and like kind of like spiraling a bit. It's finding ways to grow and improve and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Care, that's a good thing. That means you have passion. That means you have purpose towards what you're doing. And it's also good to put an expectation. It's okay to have like, I see this workout, I have an expectation that I can complete this many rounds, these reps, these weights. Like, we want to have that. We want to have a goal, right? Okay. And what's the, sometimes it's good to sometimes flow without a goal and just be in the moment. But for this example with the Open, we want to create somewhat of an expectation for ourselves with the awareness of being able to, like, how are you going to navigate that space if you don't live up to that expectation, or if there is quote unquote failure. And how do we know that? And I think people are afraid of that, right? We're all afraid of failing. We're all afraid of not living up to an expectation because we care so much. And the best part about the growth mindset is to know how, when, where, why you can navigate failure in a way that's going to continue to express your care for what you do, and it continue to expand your expectation for what you do. And I've been in this space so many times, especially with the open, of like having an expectation that I'm going to perform and do it this way, and it goes completely sideways. I mean, listen, we know the mental battle with CrossFit Open workouts, right? You guys have been experiencing them on Fridays, and there is, by far, with these workouts, the most challenging thoughts and conversations in your head during these workouts. Like, oh, this feels hard. I don't want to go any further. Why should I even push myself? Why should I even care? I'm content with this round. I have no expectation to do another one. Or, I keep tripping on these double unders. I can't do this. I can't do this. Or, I'm stuck on this weight. It's challenging me. Or, getting up to this burpee pull-up. Like, you can easily go sideways in one of these workouts with your thoughts. And so what we're going to start to segue into is, not letting yourself get to that space, right? Knowing and being aware that that's very much a potential thing to happen. That's normal. That's a human experience. That's a raw emotion because you care, have expectations. But how do you come back to, again, this whole idea of coming back to balance and using it as a tool to have self-love, self-compassion, self-care, and fuel your fire to keep going, to keep working, and not let it drag you down. So we put this week for our weekly wisdom, you become your thoughts. And the reason why this came to me during some my meditation work and thinking about what to bring about this week for the community was, obviously Joe's wearing his Birds gear here, and AJ Brown brought up the popularized now book Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. And yeah, I mean, basically it's the idea of what any mental self-help, self-positive talk book is all about. It's about, in confidence, championship mindset type book is about. It's literally giving you tools and ways to navigate your thought patterns that are not saying, hey, you can't feel this way or can't feel this way. It's knowing that you're going to feel both spectrums, super positive, maybe negative, down and out, and coming back to like using that center point as a tool of like, what are these techniques that I can use? What are some things I can tell myself to allow me to move forward with my mental health, with my mental space, particularly when it pertains to, people who are in the competitive field or people who do put expectations and care into the work that they do. And so obviously AJ Brown pulling it out on the sidelines, like randomly, I think he claims that it's a thing that he does, but I think truly that he was probably feeling a certain way. We know that he was feeling a certain way about probably not getting the ball, which I think is actually good. Like, he was feeling negative about his experience, and so he used a tool like this book to pull out on the sideline, just maybe to read something. Maybe not, who knows if he read it, but just to bring him back to that center point of like, hey, I'm not getting the ball, but like, how do I find gratitude for this moment? How do I find the ability to continue to give my best effort on the field, even though I'm not being targeted? So yeah, I mean, we know AJ Brown, he's a character, but actually Kevin Cornefeld in our share, so on Friday, was mentioning like how good of a dude AJ Brown was to like Kevin's son when they were like walking off the practice field, and like AJ Brown stopped out of nowhere just to like say what's up to Kevin's son and like sign autograph his stuff. And so
I'm a big AJ Brown fan.
Yeah,
I think he's very outspoken just about mental health in general.
Yeah.
I did love the whole. I also just love so many people buying it, and like I was saying before we started.
It's the number one seller now.
I'm like, in terms of self-help books, like
yeah.
it's not in the upper echelon,
Yeah,
like,
it's
the thing with a self-help book like that is like if you've read one, you've read them all. And I'm not saying they're not valuable. Like I've read self-help books, like they're great, but reading these things, like when you read one and you start to hear that and you you kind of get what you got to do. You know,
Yes.
you know what you have to do. You hear the message, like you hear what your inner voice is saying. Like reading these books that's the easy part. Like the hard part is like actually doing it.
Dude.
That's the hard part.
You know what I started thinking about with this? Because, like, again, I'm all about it. You know, it's like being a coach at CrossFit. And you say the same exact cue to the same exact people over and over again, not overcomplicate, and it's the perfect cue, and everyone, and they're just not processing it. Mm-hmm. And then a different person, same cue, same exact way, says it to that person, the client or member doing the movement, and then it finally clicks.
Yes, that
it's
is
like,
very true.
You know, I guess like I'm getting salty here. I'm getting triggered, right? Like we've been talking about all this stuff for our whole community. I've been talking about this stuff forever, you know, and it's like all of a sudden, you know, we've been transitioning and talking about MFP becoming a more holistic space for not just the physical, or mental, emotional, spiritual, and saying all the same things. But like all of a sudden, because AJ Brown now pulls it out of a book, and everybody gets it.
Yep, now everyone gets it.
You know, but hey, listen, I'm grateful for that, because I think the more people that are starting to tap into their own mental thought processes, the better. And yeah, there's a lot of good things that come out of that. I mean, really, that's the whole idea of the Just Show Up mantra.
Yeah.
I mean, when we made this years ago, it's really about creating a narrative in your head, right? That's what mantras are. That's what affirmations are. They are repetitions of an inner voice to you that projects outward energetically to physical reality. And that's really the end goal, right? We're trying to transmute that thought into a creation of sort, right? And we talked about manifestation in so many episodes and how that works, but that's the idea of Just Show Up, y'all. It's literally the thought process of, I'm here, I'm getting 1% better every day by just showing up here. I'm able to create this confidence, show up here that will transfer outside of the gym and allowing me to improve myself holistically, not just physically in the gym.
Yeah.
And really that was our big concept with this whole Just Show Up thing. So, I mean, I guess we got to write a book to make it big.
That'll be next in the newsletter, the book experience coming 2026. But yeah, like it's true. And I do think that, you know, we kind of joke about it, but it is, you know, we've talked about it before, it is harder to put things into practice, you know, and sometimes you do, and for a reason I really don't know, sometimes you do need that other voice to to tell you something, or sometimes you do need some other sign, like, you know, it's an inescapable part of being human. Like sometimes, you know, we always know, like we see the same messages every day. We see the same messages every day, but there's always some point where eventually it clicks. So like, you know, what's important is that you're open to that, and like at some point it will click for you. And you know, accepting that you're never going to be perfect is also like giving yourself some grace. So.
Yeah, and the deeper level for that, I've been reading, I'll touch on later, is that, you know, and it's okay if it doesn't click in this lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, you at some point, you know, just being aware of it or being around that will transition, because no matter what, that energy is transferring into your thought form, even if you're not aware from it. And at some point after, you know, you pass in this lifetime, you're going to look back at this lifetime and see where you made that mistake of not coming back to this source of love through thought and through patterns and behaviors that were limiting you and holding you back. And you're just going to keep coming back to continue to practice, to continue to come back to this experience of working through your thoughts. And let's start to dive a little deeper into thoughts and some really intriguing things, you know, that may or may not make sense to you. And everything that I'll talk about from here, like, it's not supposed to. The idea is, like Joe said, like just being open to understanding the true concept of thoughts and thought energy, and knowing that there is a deeper science to that sometimes is just really hard to articulate or even put into material, you know, proof, because thought is an actual form of frequency or energy that organically comes not through physical reality. Like, we are very dense human beings, and this body is really just it's just a vehicle for a very blip of your soul's journey to learn how to gain input back to its original source, which is the soul. So that way the soul has a learning experience to become more whole, so that way it can become more attached to the infinite intelligence, which is God. And the thought is the idea of like, that's the original you, that's the soul speaking. However, because it's manifested in a physical dense body that, and we talked about, that is always receiving input through our five senses, those thoughts are always going to be navigated and influenced. Yeah. And so like we were talking about through the beginning with the breath work and the meditation, it was just like repeating yourself, quiet the mind, open the heart, free the soul. Quiet the mind, open the heart, free the soul. And you're just trying to create thought patterns that are trying to block out the noise that's coming in. And so just being aware that thought in itself is so much more than we really actually understand, because the majority of us are experiencing thoughts through physical reality, through the five senses, and not from the true inner voice, which is our spiritual soul. Second is knowing that every thought has a frequency attached to it, a frequency and a vibration. And so if I say, for example, Joe, nice to see you, man. I love you, dude. Versus, Joe, you're a dick. You're an asshole. Like those are two completely different frequencies. Now, my thought process, it was going like, oh, I'm just faking this to Joe, right? But even so, like that's my thought energy. When I project it in the vibration sound energy, that is going to change the energy to how you receive, even though you're probably not aware of how you receive it, and the energy in the room. And so thought is a very, very powerful thing when you actually create an intention to it, where like I think to my head, I'm really glad to see Joe, and then I project that thought outward like, Joe, man, great to see you. Love you, man. Awesome to see you. Like, I mean, you guys probably feel that from Joe every time you guys meet him, right? Every time you walk in the gym, Joe's like, he brings, I call the sun energy to. He's like, hey, man, nice to meet you. Hey, this person, nice to meet you. Fist bump. It's the thought is intentional for Joe because he's that kind of guy. And then the voice projection vibration into frequency goes into the outer world. So you actually feel the energy from Joe, even if your own thought frequency and energy to yourself is low. So there's lower frequencies that we can think, and there's higher frequencies that we can think, and there's middle ground. And so just being open to that and understanding that every thought has a very powerful form. Yeah. And if you intentionally put a higher frequency to your thought, that is really our goal in life. That is the goal of the soul. The soul wants to experience love consciousness, higher frequencies. And part of that experience here, being on earth, is to know that you're going to go through a handful of lower frequencies, that are going to pull that down. And that's really part of it. Like the soul wants that. It wants to learn how to create thoughts that are going to raise it back up and experience, what we say, positive vibes only at the gym.
Yeah. I'll quick share with people listening. This conversation today kind of reminds me of coaching a Thursday longevity class, because like sometimes I'll look at the stuff that Marco writes and I'm just like, what is that? And I'll see that with like some longevity classes, and like up until this point, I'm like, I get it. But the next thing on the show notes is the Japan experience with rice/plants. I'm like, what are we going into here? So I'm like, I totally get it. So now I'm very curious where this is gonna.
Well, there is actual tangible data about thoughts. So I'm gonna go into a few things. One being the experiment where there's 3 bowls of rice and water. Every single day, the individual, these were in Japan with these experiments, the individual will go up to the first bowl of water and rice and say, thank you, I love you. And then the second bowl of water, they'll stare at it but not acknowledge it. The third will say, I hate you. every single day for, X amount of days. I think it was like 60 to 90 days of doing that. They noticed after that time frame, the first bowl of water that received positive thought forming frequencies started to ferment. The second bowl of water
mean rice?
Yeah, I'm sorry, rice. Rice. The rice was fermenting. Mm-hmm. The rice in the second bowl was becoming a little cloudy, but really not making, an adjustment of positive or negative. And the third was starting to show like mold, for example, on the third bowl of rice. So every single day, each of those bowls of rice were receiving thought form, intention, energy out to frequency and vibration into the space in the ether, which is known as like sacred geometry and sound and cymatics. Too much words there. But same concept happened with plants. You would love this one. Plant, plant, plant. Mm-hmm. First plant, thank you, I love you. Second plant, not acknowledged. Third plant, I hate you. What do you think happened to the first plant?
It's blooming.
Blooming.
Yep.
Second plant?
Stagnant.
Stagnant, right? It's not really doing much. It's kind of withering a little bit. Mm-hmm. Third plant, what do you think?
Just withering, dying.
It's dead.
Yeah.
These are legit experiments. So if you think about just that concept in general, knowing like sometimes you don't even have to say a thought. We all know this. We all feel it. Like you're around somebody, like they don't have to say something, but you can feel their thought energy. Because one, half of that thought energy translates into the physical body, hence the term you become your thoughts. Like if you're stinking thinking, you will actually have physical ailments and disease on a cellular level that will affect, because those frequencies of the cells are going to lower. Mm-hmm. Same thing applies, if you say it verbally or not. But whatever, the idea of that experiment was to really show that thoughts are a form of energy that will actually translate into physical matter and physical reality.
Yeah, I think that it makes a ton of sense. It's just so hard for people to grasp it because they can't see it. But for people who kind of struggle to really understand this, like I would recommend reading this one book called An Immense World, where it's written by like a scientist, Ed Young, where he talks about how like we just see like a glimpse of everything that's around us. Like we have frequencies surrounding us, like electromagnetic spectrum surrounding us. Like there's so much around us, just we're so limited by what we could see with our senses. So, and you could even like just experiment it with your own. Like I think like what you were saying with how like the way you greet someone, like for me, an example of that is like, sometimes I'll tease my dogs and like, they don't understand English, but like I'll call my dog a dummy, and then like I feel terrible about it. Yeah. Like you're not a dummy. I'm sorry. Like, and like I know he doesn't speak English, but like I don't know. You could feel like you feel off balance. I feel out of center. And if I ever like, even with my animals, like if I call them a dummy, like I'll apologize and I'll feel terrible about it.
If you have a room full of people that are just negative thinkers, they talk gossip, this, and it's all poor wavelengths and frequencies of talk and thought matter, that energy in the room, something like it will completely change. Either that form of energy will form in the ether, which is the quantum field, and form an actual dark matter that will stick. And this could go into a whole tangent about like the true understanding of energy, how it forms in like dark matter. People call it demons and stuff. That's not actually what's happening. It's just dark matter that gets stuck in the ether from a continuation of poor frequencies coming from whatever source that negative frequency is coming from. And understanding that when we create positive, any frequency or thought and energy, it actually comes out in the form of light. So these are forms of like actual photons. And they've experimented with in science where another experiment was they took someone through thought with an intentional thought of creating a physical object. And they were able to achieve that because the thought came to light, and then the light ended up changing into physical matter, which is a very, very possible thing, which is the whole concept of all spiritual text of how God created the universe. Like God's first started of an entity becoming aware of itself through thought form. The thought form then created sound through frequency, AUM, ohm, and that frequency and sound started to create electromagnetic fields through electrons that actually sparked and created physical matter through light. And that's a whole nother story for another time. But the idea is that, you know, all of that thought form and energy that we're projecting out into the world, projecting out into space, you have to be mindful and aware that, like, all that energy gets stuck in your physical body.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that if you got stinking thinking, and it happens, like for me, for example, I'll just come back to ground level for you guys so we're all kind of understanding some basics. Like, I try to really be aware at home, at least nowadays, more than ever, like when I'm holding my child, like, yeah, I get, you know, tired as hell because you're not sleeping as much, you're not feeling great, you're going to have negative thought patterns. And so, like, when you're holding your child, you're with your child, I just try to come back to this saying, like, I love you, I kiss them, I try to, like, have as much positive frequency as I can to bring that into existence towards the human being child that I have. So that way that they can feel positive frequency, so that way they are properly growing on a cellular level and being against, you know, illness and diseases and just things that aren't going to serve the child, even though it's a, you know, a newborn.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to apply that everywhere. And, like, I'm not the best always in the gym. Like, you know, when you're tired and when you feel off and you're feeling just negative because your physical body is not in alignment, that's okay. Like, it's going to happen. Start with thought. Start with trying to just think into existence a positive frequency. That's where doing inner work, you know, meditation, mantras can be really, really helpful daily, or any self-care routine that you have can be really helpful to get the physical body back into alignment so you can start to create better thoughts for yourself.
Yeah, I think something that also happens in addition to just in general, like when you're feeling off or you're kind of feeling those, like a low frequency, another way it could manifest is like seeking to distract yourself. You know, like, I mean, like you say, like with your son, like, are you like being present? It's mostly just about being present with whoever and wherever you're at. Like maybe you're with your son, or maybe you're just eating dinner with your partner or something, or maybe you're just with people. Like, are you always like looking to escape? Are you on your phone? Like, and it's so, the phone is such like a brutal tool for our world, just to like pull us away from moments. Even if you're by yourself, like, are you comfortable just like being by yourself, or just being with your dog or with your cat? Like, without, you know, a good test of it is like, can you watch a movie without, after the movie ends, Googling plot discussions on Reddit, Googling about the movie.
Joe's a cinnamon guy, by the way.
Could you watch that movie, not open your phone afterwards, not talk to anyone about it, not Google anything about it, and then just go to bed? It's hard, actually. Like, it's hard, and you know, just finding a way, because also too, like, you might be feeling uncomfortable sometimes, and that's also a part of it. You know, just not distracting yourself. So I think like it could.
It's so hard. You
know, it's hard, but it's important, and you know, it's a practice that's really helped me. Also, final thing, talking to your plants really is important. It works. So talk to your plants. I know we have some gardeners in this community. Shout out to Meg Sneed, Master Gardener. But talking to your plants does create those frequencies, because that's how plants communicate. They communicate through frequencies.
Yeah, 100. This is not. I know for a lot of people they're probably lost, but you know, this is real.
This is real.
This is reality. Even though it's not physical matter, we have to expand our consciousness outside that. We are so much more than just this dense physical body. We are an eternal soul. And that's really the deeper spiritual side of this, is knowing that your thoughts are coming from this eternal part of your being. And the challenge is to get to that inner voice. That's really our end goal. And one of the best ways to do it is to find flow state. It doesn't necessarily have to be stillness. The reason why I love kettlebell flows, like Joe's talking about all the, you know, the mystery behind some of these workouts. Yes, I get it. I'm a handful, but how is it when you get that flow state where you're not thinking anymore, and you're just going. And that really, like you were just trying to point out, was really a great time for us to receive the inner voice that is the true authentic self. And, you know, if you can find flow state in anything that you do, gardening, walking, you know, your dogs or cooking, whatever, that's a great start. And the mastery is, like you were just talking about, like find it through stillness, just being in the moment without the influence of, you know, your phone, which is crazy difficult.
Super hard.
So stillness will lead to yourself, which will eventually lead to source. And that's the end goal. And experiencing, I put this idea of experiencing all in quietness. So like when you're sitting at home with your, you know, cat, animal, or just by yourself or significant other, like find all in everything that is. Like little details of your house, or the macro details of just being with your loved one, or the macro details of knowing that you are serving an animal, or the macro details.
Feed your birds, man.
Yeah.
Feed your birds.
Jonas fucking birds. I love it.
I
love his
my
fucking
yard
birds.
is a wildlife sanctuary.
Yeah. Find all in the little things like your birds, all right? Say it to yourself. I love my bird.
Yeah.
I love my bird.
It's the best. Nature's all around us. You can create it in your backyard.
You talked about that one time, like find all in nature. It's so true. You know, and then once you start to experience the quietness and the awe and beauty, then you start to have conversations with the inner voice. And then, you know, the biggest thing I've been able to experience, and I come back to a lot to psychedelics and plant medicine, is like, what happens when you expand your consciousness past the physical body? Like, what is left? I think a lot of people worry about, like, what happens when we die? What's the next step? Is like, you are still thought form. Like, you still have a social memory complex of what you experience here in this incarnation of the physical body. So you are still thought. Like, you have thoughts. And trust me when I say this, like, I've experienced thought in expansion of the physical world through plant medicine. Like, it's a very humbling, beautiful, scary experience for sure. But it really gives you gratitude and love of knowing that you get to have a physical experience and that you are much more than just this. You really are the eternal. And knowing the biggest thing is that your thought, when you leave, like that, those last moments of thoughts when you leave are actually your most important moments of thought when you go into the next part of reaching your soul, because those are the main thoughts your soul is going to look at and go, how is this individual, how did I leave this physical experience, and how is it going to let me transfer? Like, do I have to come back and fix some shit? Great, I'm going to do that. Or do I get to be content and go to a collection of what's called oversouls, which are just, you know, experiencing love consciousness with a collection of the greater collective? Or maybe you figured it all out and, hey, I'm just going to go back to source and God and go party. You know, like, you're going to figure out one of those things. And usually a lot of us, it's we reincarnate until we figure it out. Yeah. And, you know, I'm just talking a lot now on some deeper stuff, but really that's part of what I figured out. What I'm doing right now is I'm starting to get closer to understanding. I'm probably going to reincarnate a few more times, but, you know, I'm starting to figure this thing out of why we're here and what we're doing, and I'm grateful for it. So bringing it back to ground level, though, is really start thinking about thoughts. You know, be aware. Be aware. Notice when you are going in the stinking thinking, poo-poo thought, and create the narrative. Like, I am versus I can't or I won't. You know, the curious mind is always a higher frequency mind. Yeah. Right? The courageous mind is a higher frequency mind. The connected mind, if I want to connect, is a higher frequency mind. The committed mind is a higher frequency mind. Like, all these are going to allow you to expand, you know, who you want to be and how you want to do it.
Yeah, and like once you tap into that higher frequency, you'll really know that inner voice. And like you're going to get like one thing that's, you know, we didn't really talk about too much, but something everybody knows is you're just going to get thoughts all day, every day, just random stuff. Like, your brain is always, neurons are always firing. Like, you're going to get good shit, weird stuff, you know, like scary stuff. You're going to get everything. Yep. But like, you know, finding calm and stillness amongst that and learning to kind of accept it, soon you'll be able to hear clearly, like, oh, I couldn't understand my inner voice, and that's just thoughts going, doing thought things. That's
100%
part of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for a lot of people, it's harder than what we're saying. Like some people have trouble and are triggered to thoughts, what we call anxiety, depression, because of nervous system trauma. And that's really the bigger goal for us with mental health is how do we work past these challenges and knowing that I actually have an inner wisdom and healer that'll help me work through these versus trying to, rely on a substance that's just going to Band-Aid it, right? What's the real preventative health measure? And so you are it, right? And so that's kind of how we'll leave it. You have the inner excellence in you.
Inner excellence.
Bestseller
on Amazon.
Jim Murphy, thanks, man. You did us a great service. So, the Open's coming. Start with some positive self-talk on Fridays. Get excited. Get aware. We just posted more details on social media today. And get signed up, all right? Well, that's all we got, all right, everybody? Love you guys. See you next week.
Peace.
Peace.